Hey, everybody. Hope you are having a wonderful Friday afternoon. I am excited for the weekend. We've been having nonstop storms and it's finally sunny out, so hoping it's going to stay that way for just a little bit. But I've got a shorter class today, but a lot of really important content because one of the largest questions that I get asked literally by every new investor that we talk to that already owns property is, well, how do I know when it's time to sell? Or how do I know when it's time to cash out? And really, it's about two things. It's about understanding how the model works, and I'm going to talk just very briefly about that today. But then it's also understanding how to properly look at your portfolio as a whole when using your existing property to propel you into the future. I think so many investors get stuck that they have one cash flowing property that they forget that there's only so much cash to go into new properties. And so if you're not constantly using what you have as it grows and as it gains to propel you forward, unless you've got some massive income that's pumping tons of cash to keep putting down payments constantly, you're really at a stopping point of building your portfolio. And so what we're going to talk about today is how a 1031 exchange works and how it can really make a difference in building a real estate portfolio. This is one of those topics that we hit really heavy at our events. And so if you haven't attended one of our events or you haven't heard me talk about this before, you're probably going to have some questions more about how to utilize them. And so we're going to have some follow-up webinars over the next few weeks showing in practicality, if you have a property, what do we do with that property? How do we make that property perform better for us? And then, of course, how do we know when it's time to 1031 exchange? How do we know when it's time to cash out? And how do you know which one's the better choice? And sometimes in a market like what we're in right now, that decision can be very difficult. When you're in a low rate climate with an appreciating market, it's a very easy decision. In the place that we are right now, it's all about relationships and what lending you have access to and how those numbers look. But before we can even begin to look at specific properties, you have to understand what a 1031 exchange is and how we use them. So let's get started. As you guys know, I'm not going to go too much into background here, but Michael and I have been doing this since we were 18 and 19. This is quite literally all we've ever done. We have a massive real estate portfolio that we have built using our 2 to 6 year model, and we have done that with the power of 1031 exchanges. If you are new to us and you don't know a lot about Michael and I, please go to our website. You can learn a lot about what we do and about our educational events and all of the opportunities for free education that we bring you throughout the year. We do have our upcoming event, and that is April 14th to 16th. This is a free conference on the 14th, a bus tour on the 15th, and then a mastermind on the 16th. We're at the Sheraton McKinney, beautiful, beautiful hotel complex, and we're super excited that we have Matthew Aycock and Kathy Fetke coming as guest speakers. And so if you haven't gotten your free ticket, we hope to see you there. We still have tickets left, and we still do have room on our bus tour right now. That could change, but right now we do still have room. We have an after dinner party that's going to be awesome. We're going to have live music, a lot of just great mingling and mixing with other investors and professionals. You can go to our website, you can go to the Eventbrite, or of course use this QR code here to get a ticket to that. We have our bus tour. This is the QR to register for that. You again can go to Eventbrite or our website to register. That will go from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We'll be seeing Grayson County, which is Sherman-Denison, as well as Hunt County, which is Greenville. And we'll be talking a lot about what's happening in the area, what's happening in those areas, and showing you the development with Texas Instruments and all of the other growth that's happening in the region. Of course, we have our mastermind on Sunday. We only have a couple spots left, so if this is something that you're interested in, I would reach out sooner rather than later. This will be a small group at my personal home. We're going to be looking at everyone's individual portfolios, how to grow a portfolio, how Michael and I have done our own personal success, talking through what it is to be a real estate investor, how to navigate that world, whether you're self-managing, whether you're using someone else. And so it's just going to be a day of being with other like-minded people who believe in the power of rentals and real estate. And each person's going to have a one-on-one 30-minute session with Michael and I to go over their portfolio, make recommendations, and see how we can help you on your journey. So we're down to just a couple spots there. Again, you can go to the Eventbrite or our website, or feel free to reach out. And then finally, we are giving away a ticket to our mastermind. And so all you have to do is go on social media and share our event. And we'll be doing that drawing this weekend. So if you haven't done that, it's a pretty freebie way to get a free entry to be able to get a ticket to the mastermind. And so you can go do that on Facebook, on Instagram, or on Twitter. We're next Friday going to have a webinar into the power of leveraging. This is actually one of my favorite things to teach because it really shows you how using lending can propel you to the next level. Of course, 1031 exchanges are one piece of that puzzle, but the 1031 exchange only works if you're doing lending. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense the same way. And so I'm going to show you a snippet of how that looks. But if you really want to learn the ins and outs of mortgage financing and how we use them, how it looks as you grow a larger portfolio outside of Fannie Mae, and then some of the contacts and companies that I've used to build my portfolio, this is going to be a great webinar for you. This one will probably take a full hour. So if you can't watch it live, if you register, you'll get a link on the back end and you can go back and watch it later or watch it again. So our website under Investor Education is where you will find replays of any webinars that you did not register for, or you can always email us at info@slaughterinvesting.com and ask for whatever webinar it is you're looking for. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of the avenues. I have no idea how to navigate. I have a great team for that. I'm fantastic at Facebook for those of you on my Facebook, but it's a great way to keep in touch and see upcoming events. We're going to be starting some mini events in between our large events. That way we can do some evening powerhouses. And so keep your eye out for those little mini events. And then we'll also be doing an upcoming virtual event that will be like our large in-person event. And so I will be sending information on that out here in the next couple of weeks. Before I get started, everything I talk about today is my best guess and judgment based on years of operating and owning a real estate investment firm, as well as a real estate investment enterprise for my own personal rentals. There's no crystal balls, there's no guarantees. We always do our best to guide you on your journey. We're one tool in your toolbox. Many of you have heard me say that many, many times. But at the end of the day, we talk about what we believe and what we have used to build our portfolio and build our path to retirement. And our goal is to help educate you and give you the information so that you can decide what investment journey fits right for you. One of the things I tell everyone is that my way may not be the best way for you, and someone else's way may not be the best way for me. And so we all have our idea of what the best way to invest in real estate is. Certainly, I believe mine is the best and the safest, but that doesn't mean that it's the best for you. Do your due diligence, not only on who you're working with, but what model you're working with and what market you're working within. One of the things I talk about a lot is that there is no real estate market that's national. You need to look at hyper-local markets, especially right now. Many models that look good on paper just don't work in a market like what we're in right now. It's been very, very difficult to lose money the last 3 years, really up until 6 months ago. Real estate was really, really safe and really easy pretty much anywhere you went. And the problem is now we've got a lot of operators out there toting those numbers. They're talking about what they've done the last 2 to 3 years, and that's really when most of their business has happened. And so it's very, very important. Anyone that you're talking to right now in any investment vehicle, not just real estate, look at what their performance was before the market went crazy. Look at what their performance was before there was all this free money floating into the market. Make sure that the model that you are using is resilient and will stand the test of time, whatever the market is doing. So that's my soapbox. Let me climb down and let's get started. So for those of you who know, we build our portfolio through what we call a 2 to 6 year model. And that model is designed to help you grow a portfolio as quickly as possible. And I'm not going to touch on this a lot today. This is a webinar for another day, or we talk about it a lot in our live events. It is about how we grow as quickly as possible with the same amount of initial capital, knowing that the majority of people that are looking to invest only have so much cash to use. And so our model is built around whatever you have available to use. That is what we're going to take, and that is what we're going to run with to do as much as we possibly can to empower you to build as much passive income, depreciation, all of the benefits of real estate with that initial capital. Now, the hope is that you continue to have more and more capital to use, that you're going to build your portfolio in addition to taking what you have and expanding it from there. But at the end of the day, the model is designed so that if all you have is what you have, maybe you got an inheritance and your current income only sustains your life right now, there's a lot of situations that can come up. The bottom line is our model is designed to help you move forward. And within that model are all the different ways that we do that, whether you have bad credit and you need financing that's not credit dependent, whether you have income that's not easily proved, and so you need something that's going to look at bank statements, whether you have great income, great credit, and you want to go A paper Fannie Mae. There is an option to make this work for everyone. At the end of the day, it is about what model we use and how we use it to propel you forward as quickly as possible. If you're only buying a property every 4 to 5 years, getting to replace your income or making yourself ability to have retirement is very, very different. And so the model is designed to work with what you have, and then that's where we coach and tailor the approach to what your specific situation is. And as you see, step 1 starts with acquiring property with max leveraging. And so moving on to step 2 is completely dependent on what properties you own. This is why we are so big on saying, what do you own? What do you owe? How is it cash flowing? How much has it gone up in value? What is your debt to income ratio for this property? And for you, in terms of your ability to lend and its ability to cash perform, there's just so many facets. And this is why we have those intake forms we use for our mastermind, so that we can really look at your entire portfolio, everything you have, and make those recommendations. It's important that you're running your numbers at a minimum of every quarter so that you know how your properties are performing now, but also compared to how they performed originally. And then keeping an eye on available property now, where the market is, where the opportunity is, so that you can gauge whether or not it makes sense to exchange that property. And that's how we get into step 2. Step 2 is either we do a 1031 exchange, we sell that property and we double, we go back and we buy as many as we can with the equity we got. Or does it make sense to cash out? Does it still cash flow? Is the rent going up at a fast enough speed to stay on pace with the value that keeping this property as a rental makes sense? And so that is that step 2 piece that so many people don't do. And then finally, step 3 is acquiring the new properties. And so what we're going to be talking about today is part 1 of step 2, and that is 1031 exchanges. So let's get started. Let's go with the basics first. Some of you may not even know what a 1031 exchange is, so forgive me if you do, but it's important that we understand the backbone of what this is. So Section 1031 provides an exception that allows you to postpone paying tax on the gain if you reinvest the proceeds in a similar property as part of a qualifying like-kind exchange. Essentially, what that means is you are deferring your taxes. It's not forgiveness, it's not tax-free. You are deferring those gains. And the goal is you defer, defer, defer until you die. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how that looks later. So what relinquished property and replacement property qualifies for an exchange? So both have to be used in a trade or business for investment. That way, it is something that qualifies as an investment property. So your personal home doesn't count. If you live in a home and you want to 1031 exchange it, first you need to convert it to a rental property, an income producing property. Now, typically what's understood is that's a year and a day. So if you rent out your property for a year and a day, then at that point we can start looking at doing something that is a 1031 exchange. But if you just straight out sell your property, there's different laws that go into effect with that. Capital gains, we won't talk about that right now. They have to be like kind, meaning of the same nature, character, or class. So rental real estate, land, they both qualify. Personal use properties don't qualify. And if you have a property inside the US, it is not like kind to property outside of the US. This is one that trips a lot of people up because they think that investment to investment works. And if it's not in the US and it's not outside the US, you can't go and do opposites. Now, Section 1031 does not apply to inventory in stock, bonds, notes, securities, debts, partnership interests, and certificates of trust. So just keep in mind, this is about income producing property. The timeline requirements are really where people start to get wary and start to have concern. And so the first thing I want to tell you is these are very easy to manage. It is important that you have identified who and where you want to invest before you start the process of selling the property. And that is because what you don't want to do is wind up in a 1031 exchange where you don't have time to figure out where and what you want. But that does not mean you go contract on property before your property you're selling has sold and closed. Very, very important. The only time that you should contract on property before your property has sold is if you have the cash to buy whatever property you're buying, no matter what. Because we all know, even at the closing table, things can fall apart during inspection, during financing. If you are selling a home, especially for top dollar, where it's often an owner occupant, there are risks associated with that falling through. One benefit of working with a vendor like me is we have lots of inventory, we have lots of options. But if you're looking at a vendor that doesn't have a lot of inventory, you may chat with them and find out what they can do for you to have something available that you can feel comfortable doing that 1031 exchange. We constantly run into 1031s coming out of states like California or New York, where the proceeds are enough to buy maybe 10 rental properties or 8 rental properties. And so either you're going to want to make sure you have vendors that can fill that need, or that you're working with a vendor that can fill that need. So just be prepared. You have 45 days from the time you close. So from the time that property sells, you sign a title and it's done, you have 45 days to physically identify replacement properties. And all that means is write down by the process your intermediary uses what properties you are buying to replace. You have 180 days from that original closing to complete the transfer or buy the property. So what that means is you have 45 days to pick a property in writing, and you have 6 months to finish closing that property. So the timeline is really reasonable as long as you're smart and you do your due diligence up front. The one thing I want to be clear of is there are absolutely no extensions. There are some rules to identifying, and one of the ways I've done what I've done with my portfolio is using these rules to the point where my intermediaries probably don't like me too much. They've had to design the spreadsheet just for me to be able to keep track. But that is, again, all about the power of the 1031. For most people who are getting started and not selling a property that has a ton of equity, what you're typically going to see is the 3 property rule coming into effect. And what that means is that as long as you identify 3 or less properties, you only have to close on at least one to satisfy, which means to make valid your 1031 exchange. So that's your reinvestment goal. We'll talk about that in a moment. If you identify more than 3 properties, you have to follow what's called the 200% rule, which means that the fair market value of the properties that you actually buy can't exceed 200% of the property you sold. So if you sold $1 million property and you identify more than 3, you can't spend more than $2 million. Does that make sense? However, there's something called the 95% rule, and this is what I use constantly. You can identify an unlimited number or value to properties as long as you close on 95% of the total value of what you identify. So for those of you that follow me on Facebook, you know I buy properties that are borderline bulldozers. I buy properties that I never walk into. I buy properties that are just completely different than a very comfortable, stable, easy, no risk purchase. One of the benefits of doing that is that I can buy a lot at the same time. And that is how I personally navigate the 95% rule. Now, is your goal one day to get there and be at that level? Probably, possibly, maybe not. I didn't start at the 95% rule. I started at the 3 property rule. I amassed a portfolio. Then I started using the 200% rule. My first very large 1031, I ended at like 198.5%. And Luann Blau at ERG, I thought she was going to have a heart attack because I pushed it to the max. And the last one I just did, we followed the 95% rule. And so we do a little bit of everything. Some 1031s are simple. When you follow the 2 to 6 year model, if you start with me day 1 in a property and you stay with me and follow my model, you're probably not going to exceed that 3 property rule, because if you had that much equity, I would have been yelling at you to cash out or sell. And so it's often when people come to us with a property with a ton of equity where we run into situations with the 200% rule or the 95% rule. The nice thing is at any time, if you're working with us, we have over 50 to 60 properties available at a time. I think right now we have something like 25 off market today right now. And so again, it's all about who you're working with, what their inventory is, whatever market you're in, whatever vendor you pick or group of vendors, just talk to them, have a dialogue with them. Make sure they know you're doing this. And so maybe you can work out something with them, or at least have multiple options that are going to have inventory available for you. Now, one of the questions I get asked a lot is about boots. Well, can I take out my original down payment and defer the rest? Well, the answer is yeah, you can, but that doesn't mean it's tax-free or not subject to tax. Just because that's the money you originally put down does not mean you can pull it out and not owe taxes on it. So anything you take out is called a boot, and that is subject to taxes. So make sure you discuss that with your CPA before you do it. Now, there's a few other rules you want to keep in mind. One is the same taxpayer rule. So what that means is that whatever property you sold has to match taxpayer to the property you buy. Now, some of us have flow-through taxes, like me. I have one company that actually has its own tax return, and that income flows down through to me, and everything else is income that flows on my personal tax return with companies that also exist but don't have their own tax return. But at the end of the day, it's all the same taxpayer, and a lot of people don't understand this. So if you're looking to do a sale and you may want to buy back in a company name with the same taxpayer ID, talk to your CPA. Often there are ways to do that where just because what you sold is in your personal name doesn't necessarily mean what you buy has to be. There's also the equal or up rule. And what that means are a few things. Number one, all of your proceeds from closing have to go to your intermediary. If you take a boot, so that's where you take money out of the 1031, it is taxable. Of course, talk to your CPA if those funds were 1031 originally, because you don't want to unwind your original 1031. Replacement property has to be greater than your reinvestment goal. And what your reinvestment goal is, that's your target replacement value, or reinvestment goal as I like to call it, which means cash proceeds, how much cash you walked away with, plus the debt you paid off. That's essentially the same thing as sales price minus closing costs. So just keep in mind cash proceeds plus debt relief, or sales price minus closing costs. Now let's talk about QIs, which is a qualified intermediary or an exchange facilitator. This is where you really want to do your due diligence. The IRS requires a qualified intermediary for safe harbor. You might think that means they regulate them, they license them, they insure them. You would be wrong. Anyone can be an intermediary, which means anyone you could give your money to, maybe someone you don't trust having your money. Keep in mind, there is absolutely no prerequisite to be a QI for education or licensing. Anyone who's been an agent of yours is disqualified. So that could be a title company, that could be your attorney, that would be your real estate agent. Anyone who served as your agent in the last 2 years is automatically disqualified. Virtually anyone can be a QI. Make sure you do your research on who they are, how they hold your money. Really important you review that agreement to make sure the terms and the way money is moved is okay with you. Make sure they keep your money in an escrow account, and make sure money cannot move without your signature. You don't want John Doe keeping your money in his personal Chase checking account. That's not what you want. You want a professional company that has stood the test of time and proven to be doing business honestly. Now, let's talk about how this 1031 works in practicality. How much does using the 1031 versus just selling normally affect the growth of a rental portfolio? So let's assume we have two investors that start with the same property. We have investor A and we have investor B. At the beginning, both of them have a property value of $100,000. Their tax rate is 20%, and we've got some assumptions here. It's apples to apples though, so just follow along. Investor A paid 0 taxes, so their after-tax investment is $100,000 because they chose to use a 1031. So with 20% down leveraging, the new property power they can go buy is $500,000 in property. Investor B didn't use a 1031, they just sold. I've actually had people call me and say, I don't want to deal with that 1031, I'm just going to sell and pay the taxes. And it happens more than you would think. This is what that looks like. So they've paid $20,000 in taxes, their after-tax investment ability is now $80,000. So their new property ability to leverage and purchase is $400,000. So here's year 5. 5 years later, they do another 1031. They're being smart. They're doing what I preach. Investor A does a 1031. Again, they defer their taxes. Their after-tax investment proceeds is now $138,000. Their new property at 20% down they can leverage into is $690,700. Investor B has a property value of $510,512. They pay another $22,000 in taxes. They only have $88,000 to invest, and their property ability is now $442,000. Their cumulative taxes paid in 5 years, over $42,000. Year 10 rolls around, we have another gain. We're ready to 1031. Investor A is up to $881,000. They do the 1031 exchange. They defer their taxes, and they're now up to $190,000, almost $191,000 available. So their new property leveraged with 20% down is over $950,000. Now, this is where you really start to see the power. Investor B is now at a value of $564,000. Taxes paid another $24,400. After tax investment $97,706. They qualify still for less than $500,000 in property, and they've paid almost $67,000 in taxes. Now here's year 20. So we've talked about the first one, year 5, year 10. Now we're year 20. So this is 4 1031s. Investor A now has $3.6 million in property they can leverage into with the same initial investment. Investor B, not even up to $850,000, but they've paid now $106,000, over $106,000 in cumulative taxes. This is the power of a 1031. This is the power of why we 1031. Just look at where we end. We go from $100,000 in property to $3.64 million in property in just a few 1031s with one property. Imagine the power of doing this with 5 or with 10. Imagine the power of doing it in an appreciating market where you don't have to wait 10 years in between or 5 years in between. This is the power of a 1031 exchange. There's also estate planning benefits of a 1031 exchange. Essentially, when you pass and your estate leaves this property to your heirs, they get what's called stepped up basis. And what that means is that all that deferred gain, the new basis for your heirs is the value at the time of your death. Really quite an incredible estate to leave behind, right? Really, really incredible. So let's talk for a moment about why leveraging is the best tool to grow your rental portfolio, because everything we just talked about is utilizing 1031 exchanges, but it really is the power of leveraging. Every property is going to provide you more than just cash flow. So this is not just about the value of the property. You're also getting tax reduction benefits. You're also getting principal pay down and hopefully appreciation too. Just your principal pay down is about 5% return a year per property. As you leverage, your return increases. That allows you to have more benefits to build a larger portfolio and all those things that we talked about above. Think of each property as a team member. The more properties you have, the more people to split the work and the more worker growth you can accomplish. And so that portfolio is working for you and spreading and diversifying the risk across more than one thing. And with each property, your worth, your lendability increases because it establishes you as someone who is experienced, as someone that banks want to lend to. The doors that having more than one property opens for you are astronomical. I certainly could not have done what I did if I did it day one without experience, without a track record, without a portfolio. We've been able to get the lending that we have and the products that we have and the access that we have because of where we started step one. And that was step one, buying our first property, letting it go up in value, letting the principal pay down, and doing our first 1031 exchange. We started with 4 properties 6.5 years ago. Now, how do you know when it's time to 1031 or cash out? And this is the age-old question, right? Like, how do you know which way to go? How do you know when it's time? How do I even run my numbers to know how to look? Ongoing monitoring, like I mentioned earlier, is the most important piece of your success, guys. It is so important because if you don't know what you're making and you don't know what you own and you don't know those numbers, you're not going to be able to make the right decisions. I cannot tell you how many times I ask people, well, how much are you spending on that property? What's your rent rate? What did you pay for it originally? How much do you owe? What's your interest rate? And they just don't know. Now, if you're like me and you have hundreds, I'm going to give you a little bit of leeway. But even I know approximately most of those numbers on every property I own. Part of that's because I'm type A though. Now, it's important you are updating your return tracker quarterly using a cash on cash calculation method. This is one of the things that we're going to be going over at the mastermind is how to do this, what that looks like. I'm going to give you the tracker that I use so that you can make sure you are doing what is needed and expelling all of this negative property that's not cash flowing that you've been sitting on that has way too much equity and putting it back into cash flowing assets that make sense. The benefit of a cash on cash return is it lets you look at how much money you're making on the cash you put out and the equity you have in an asset, not just what that asset looks like on its own merit. This allows you to review things deal to deal with financing considered. And the problem is most people aren't using cash on cash returns. They're using cap rates. And right now, with where financing is, it is more important than ever that you look at how a property finances, because the difference is astronomical to your return. The financing completely changes how a deal looks. You buy properties based on the overall picture, not just the upfront sales price or down payment to rent ratio, especially when you're dealing in equity capture or appreciated properties. If you are in a market where the market is appreciating, it is so important to look at cash on cash returns and look at the total amount of equity you have in a home, not just what you originally put down. Now, why use equity and not just the original down payment? All equity you have in a property, whether it's from down payment, appreciation, your principal pay down, it's all money you have in that property that can potentially be used upon sale in a 1031 exchange. Because of that, your return drops yearly. You have more money in the deal, your cash flow barely changes, and so every year your actual cash on cash return is getting worse. So not only does it financially make sense to sell because of the equity and the ability to go use it to do more, but also because your return is dropping. That's a totally separate issue from the fact that your systems are getting older, the price point's getting higher. There's so many reasons to follow the model, but this is the one that really affects your bottom line the most. Your return drops yearly, so it's very important to calculate that return every few months so that you can make the best decisions. And the best part about using cash on cash returns, they're super simple. You take your yearly net income, you divide it by your total equity. That's it. That's all you got to do. I can give you a fancy spreadsheet to do that, and I certainly recommend you build one. However, yearly net income divided by equity, that tells you your return. So when to cash out and when to do a 1031 exchange. Generally, a 1031 exchange is going to make more sense if you've owned the property more than a few years in an appreciating market, and that's because your value has gone up. Rents are rising at a lower percentage than the appreciation rate. In times of very high appreciation, like we've seen the last few years, that's often the case. Property values over 275,000, some areas 300, but generally 275 is a pretty safe number. Rents are less than 0.65% of value. Refinance rates are over 5.5%. And the property has been owned 4 or more years since new build or the last remodel. So why does a 1031 exchange make more sense? Rents often increase at a slower rate in value. So we talked about that. If your market is appreciating, the rents are generally not going up at the same rate. Reduced tax fees at the beginning of ownership, specifically in our model due to land-only value or lower value prior to you rehabbing a property, typically increase within the first few years. And so that extra benefit you get in the beginning, if you're constantly selling every few years, that extra benefit averages into just a few years of ownership and makes an astronomical difference in your overall return. The preference is always to be in the cheapest property you can. Smaller amounts of money are easier to hit percentage growth, and rent return is much better. There's also more buyers in that buyer pool, and we are in a massive housing shortage, especially for entry-level homes. Those of you that watched my webinar last week, you already know all about this. And then finally, aging systems mean money for repairs. Plus, if you bought a new property, the warranties are ending. And so it's really important that you look at all overall costs, all the different ways that your return is changing. And that's the great thing about having a spreadsheet to track this. So how does the return differ on a property with equity versus doing a 1031 into 2? How does it work in practicality? Where is the benefit? So let's look at that. Here's an example property with the pro forma at purchase. The purchase price was $160,000, rents were $1,350. So at that time, it was a 6.25% cash on cash return, 12.43% including principal paydown. So you'll see here the principal paydown equated to about a 6% return. So right there, owning more property makes a lot of sense. Here's the pro forma after appreciation. So let's say it's now worth $200,000, the rents have gone up to $1,500. Now you're at a 5.18 cash on cash versus 6.18. You've lost about 1% return, but overall you're at 7.93 now, including principal paydown instead of 12.43. So really overall, you've lost 4.5% total return. It's astronomical. These aren't little numbers we're talking about here. So now let's look at what a replacement into 2 properties with just your equity from the one looks like. And we're going to use apples to apples using just your original cash you put in. That way you can see how this looks. So here's 2 properties instead. Purchase price $160,000, rents $1,350. But each of those is now times 2 because we bought 2 properties instead of 1. We 1031 exchanged. We did exactly what we're supposed to do. We now have a 12.5% cash on cash return, 18.68% including principal pay down. That's before all the extra benefits you also have of property number 2, depreciation, net worth increase, and before we consider going back into a reduced property tax period if one exists. These are the things that we look at when we talk about the power of a 1031 exchange and leveraging. The same principle applies as to why you should always maximize leveraging. So the benefits are doubling your depreciation, maybe tripling, depends on where appreciation's been, how long you've held it, how much equity you have, doubling your cash flow, doubling your principal payments, doubling your assets. There are so many benefits to following the model. But I get the same questions over and over. But I'm a long-term hold investor. I like having a ton of equity. It makes me feel safe. I feel secure. You may have started with a reasonable amount of equity, and you might have had a great return. But now that equity's diminished your actual return. It's sitting doing nothing for you. It's like you chose to put more money into your property to sit. Consider it holding it in a bank that you're not earning interest. In many cases, the clients that I look at portfolios for really have a cash on cash return closer to 2%, all because of the equity, especially clients that have properties in expensive areas like California, New York, or properties that they inherited. After a 1031, you've got 2 properties. Both are cash flowing, both are paying down principal, both are appreciating. And if you're sitting on a property with a ton of equity, I've seen clients turn 1 into 10, 1 into 14. I've done 1 into 28. You can do it. You can change your life. You can change your portfolio. All you have to do is take action. So let's look at, in practicality, how this works. We have a $200,000 starting value on a property with a $160,000 loan amount at 20% down. So using that same kind of number we were looking at, appreciation at 10% means in a year your home's worth $220,000. Your equity is now $60,000. Appreciation year 2 at 10% means that same home's now worth $242,000. Your equity is now $82,000. Let's say it drops in year 3. Appreciation at 5% means that home's now worth $254,000. Your equity is now astronomical. Another year at 5%, we're getting more than that now. But let's say another year at 5% means it's now worth $266,805. That's enough to buy more than 2 houses with no extra cash output. And you've been collecting cash flow and principal pay down this whole time. This is how that 2 to 6 year model works. And those of you who owned property the last 2 to 3 years, and we saw 35% in 2 years, total here, we're looking at 30. Imagine what that looked like in 2 years. That's the power of having a cash flow and appreciating property in a market that's stable. Now, ultimately, using 1031 exchanges in a hot market is my preference until you have enough passive income to sustain acquisitions on its own. Use the appreciation gains while they're happening to build a portfolio and use your existing reserves and cash to acquire during the down markets and opportunities as they present. This is what you should be doing right now. This is one of the only times that I'm going to be able to sit here and tell you that there's people on the sidelines. I'm not. Most of our investors aren't, but some people are because they don't know what to do. They don't understand what's happening. They don't understand that we're in the largest housing shortage in the history of the United States, and it's only getting worse. You do. You have the power to understand that. You have the power to understand that you can make safe investments and that real estate is the best way to hedge against inflation. That's true. If you didn't watch my webinar last week, go watch it. Go watch it because you need to see, as inflation hits, what happens to real estate. When buying in a hot market, target properties with a purpose, something that people have to have. That means houses, guys. That doesn't mean office buildings. That doesn't mean commercial properties. That doesn't mean car washes. That doesn't mean raw land. That means something that has to be had. Focus in areas that have to grow. Redeveloping areas that don't have a lot of inventory. They have housing shortages, lower price points than average homes, tons of jobs coming in Grayson County. Target areas that have a purpose. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over what opportunities we have today, but I am going to show you some of our off-market inventory. I had a couple people ask me to go over a bit about the fund. Not going to do too much of that today. You can go to our website to learn more about that. It is mostly in Grayson County. We do have this accredited only rental fund. And so if you want more information on that, please reach out to us. Let us know what your questions are and how we can help. You can invest with as little as $25,000. But you do have to be an accredited investor. If you're not sure if you're an accredited investor, if you have questions about that, you can reach out to me. Again, that's info@slaughterinvesting.com. We are buying properties that are renovation properties. These are properties with forced appreciation, buying with equity. We are buying in the areas that I own my personal portfolio in. So using the same model that I've used on my personal portfolio, a model that isn't really easy for a layman to go do, right? Because we've got the contacts, we've got the people that are in-house with us, all of that. So I'm not going to go too much into detail with that today, but I will just tell you we are up to 18 properties. We will have 18 at least by the end of this month, and then we've got a bunch more money coming in, so we'll go spend some more next week. But just to kind of show you where we are focusing our investment efforts right now to help you see where maybe you want to be using your investment efforts. We've got 9 single family in Sherman, we've got a duplex in Sherman, a single family in Gainesville, single family in Greenville, single family in Farmersville, and 5 single families in Denison. So great areas. We love what the market is doing out here. Fantastic opportunities. So again, you want to learn more, you can go to growdevelopments.com or feel free to send me an email. Now, we have a lot of off-market property right now. For those of you that don't want to stay on to listen to this part, feel free to jump off. We're going to keep bringing you this every week to keep you updated on what we have upcoming and what we have in the pipeline. This is our favorite time of year because of those property tax incentives with new construction for homes that weren't done when they were assessed in January. So great time of year to be looking. Again, as a reminder, our company OmniKey works as your agent. We don't represent the seller. We are paid as your buyer's agent. That means that our duty is to you. We represent you. Our goal is to help you build an investment portfolio. So again, purchase property, we hold for 2 to 6 years. We sell the property, we 1031 into 2 or more, and then we repeat, and we handhold you through that whole process in-house. We start with the consultation. If you haven't yet done a consultation with one of our team members, please reach out. It's really important that we know where you are, where you want to be, and what you've been doing to help guide you on your journey. We keep extensive notes of what you guys tell us you're looking for, what you own, so that we can help you on that journey. We have an investor portal, daily flyers, market updates. Those come out on a daily basis. And if you ever have questions, you can always call or email back in regards to any of those. Again, once you pick a property, we act as your agent. We can coordinate and facilitate everything all in-house. And then once you purchase, we have property management in-house where we monitor and keep doing everything that we need to do to make sure it's in the right position to be able to sell when it's time. Ultimately, you may decide you don't want to sell, you don't want to follow our model, you just want to sit in the properties into perpetuity. And of course, we have top class property management to allow you to do that if that is the model that you want to follow. So this is just a snippet of our off-market availability right now. This is all completely off-market just for our clients. So this is a single family in Denison. This is in Grayson County, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with 2-car garage for only $224,990. Very hard to find 2-car garage properties in this price point. This one's a fantastic opportunity. New construction that is available now. This is another 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, a little bit larger. This one's $229,990. Again, fantastic opportunity to have a traditional 322, which is very hard to find. This is another 322, again, just a little bit larger, $234,990. Great finish out, beautiful homes. I also love the street that these are located on. It's just absolutely beautiful. If you haven't been up to Grayson County and specifically Denison, it's just phenomenal. Beautiful trees, nice hills. You kind of forget you're in North Texas while you're up there. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1-car garage, new construction, almost 1,350 square feet, 2-story. This is a builder that does a A-class finish out, absolutely stunning homes. Actually, one of my friends is building a multi-million-dollar home with him right now. He just does beautiful property. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1-car garage, $249. And then this is a duplex, fantastic value, $425,000 for the entire duplex. 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom on each side, 1173 square feet on each side, and this will be completed in August. This is another duplex, $440,000, 3-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom each side, almost 1,300 square feet each side, also completed in August. To lock down a property, all it takes is a contract and earnest money held at title. Very simple DocuSign process, very easy, and the money sits at title, not with the builder, so it's secure there. Generally, we see about $5,000 earnest money down on a property like these. Some builders want a little more, but generally it's a pretty low amount. This is another single family home. This one's actually in Sherman, which it's hard to find property in Sherman now. 245,000, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage, almost 1,400 square feet. Great opportunity here, really nice house, huge lot. This is in Greenville, so this is Hunt County, just past McKinney, going down 380. So love this area. I have tons of property here too. For those of you that have heard me talk about my former psych ward property that we turned into an apartment, that's Greenville. I have a lot of property in Greenville. I love that area. L3 Technology is one of the huge employers in Greenville, and they're so close in. They're actually even a little closer in than what Grayson County is, crazy enough. 230,000, 1,550 to 1,600, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage, just over 1,060 square feet. This one is new construction that will be completed in July. This is new construction in Greenville, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage, almost 1,300 square feet for $235,000. Again, beautiful finish out, beautiful caliber of home. This is a 322, again, very hard to find those these days, especially sub 300, 330,000 in these areas. Almost 1,253 square feet, completed in July, estimated 240,000. And finally, our development in Oklahoma, just under 230,000, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage. These are half-acre lots, and the next batch will be going up in price. And so I think there's opportunity here to get in a little bit below what the next batch is going to be going for. This is that same builder I mentioned earlier, builds just absolutely gorgeous finish out. And this is right over the border, y'all. So 5 minutes back into Denison and back to where all these employers are coming in. Benefit of Oklahoma's property taxes are a lot lower. There are some other differences to investing in Oklahoma, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions. If you want to book a call with our investment team, you can always email them at investments@omnikeytexas.com, or you can scan this QR code here anytime or go to our website. They'd be more than happy to work with you. And then, of course, if you want to schedule a consultation with Michael and I, you can always go to our website, slaughterinvesting.com, or email us at info@slaughterinvesting.com, and we can get that on the schedule for you. Again, our event, April 14th to 16th, we would love to see you there. If nothing else, come to our free conference, learn what we're going to talk about, hear from Kathy Fetke. Matthew Aycock is going to be coming, speaking about how to structure your properties, how to title your properties, things to keep in mind, and then talk a little bit about what's going on in the world today, what's going on in the market, and that's going to be a big focus of what's happening right now and how do we use it to our advantage as real estate investors and where are the risks. Of course, after dinner party will be that evening. We'll have our bus tour the next day, and then the private mastermind at my home will be on Sunday. Again, I hope you share our giveaway. Would love to see you earn a free ticket to the mastermind. Other than that, please stay connected with us. We've got webinars almost every week all through summer. Lots of stuff to go over, lots of things to talk about, and of course, keep you posted on what is happening here in our market. I am hoping that next week I'm going to have some awesome news on property taxes here in Texas. If you haven't been watching what's going on in our Senate that just passed our Senate going to the House, go look it up. It's incredibly exciting for real estate investors, and we are very, very excited to see the potential of what is to come. Let me take a look at some of these questions here, and let's see. Can you talk about cash out refi to invest versus doing a 1031 exchange? When does one versus another make more sense? So we're going to do a separate class on that, but essentially it's all about whether or not the property can sustain cash flow after a cash out. Hint, 90% of the time it can't. The reasoning is that value has gone too high and the rents don't go up at the same rate. So if you were to cash out, you would have to have an astronomically low rate to be able to still keep cash flow on that initial property. It makes more sense to go back into a cheaper property so that you can continue to have higher returns. Let's see. Yes, we'll send a replay. You can go in after the fact and watch it on any of our podcasts or YouTube or any of those places, but also it should send you a follow-up with a link to rewatch. Let's see, can you add boot to the sale single family and go directly to a fourplex? I'm not sure what you mean by can you add boot to the sale? Do you mean add more money into your proceeds and go directly into a multifamily or a larger? Absolutely. Instead of going, when I say 1 to 2, we're talking unit count here. So it might be that you go from a single family into a triplex, or you go from a single family into a duplex. I have some clients that'll sell 3 single families and go into a 6 unit. So there's all sorts of opportunity there. And yes, absolutely, that's something that you can do. The timing starts with the initial one though, the day it closes. And so if you're going to do something like that, we have to be kind of careful with how we time things. And so in a case like that, you probably want to do the whole thing with one market. But again, we can talk about that, and you do have 45 days to ID. It just depends on your specific situation and what you're looking to do. That's a conversation to have offline. So reach out if that's something that you're interested in. Let's see. I appreciate all the thank yous. I do have a question. Don't closing costs eat away at the returns? Closing costs are actually not really high, but there was enough fluff in my numbers for you to be able to pay for the sale. Where closing costs get really expensive, guys, are when you are doing properties where the seller's not paying a lot. And so when we deal with our builders, they're paying your title policy. Typically, they're paying for survey. Often they're paying for a builder warranty. We see that almost all the time. And so a lot of those closing costs are paid by the other party, where the closing costs are negotiable and where things changes with your loans. And the lenders that we use don't have high closing costs. You'll find a lot of people out there quoting ridiculous loans right now with 2 points or 3 points or 4 points. That's not the type of lending that we recommend. If you're going to go into lending like that, there needs to be a very specific purpose, and it needs to be a loan that you know you're going to sit in for a long time. With where rates are right now, it's highly unlikely that any loan you go into, you're going to sit into for a long time. And so you should go with the cheapest type of loan that you can get into that makes sense and the numbers work, because what we are doing right now is marrying the property and dating the rate. Rates will come down. We've already seen it the last few weeks. Things are going to change. This is temporary, but it's temporary opportunity, and that's how we have to look at it. That's all the questions. So I appreciate everyone for being here as always. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week. Take care.